I jumped in the shade for today's Friday talk. It's a little warm over there. Actually, I think this week here in Salt Lake is going to be 100 degrees, which is not my favorite at all. But happy Friday to you. This is Friday talk time, and today I'm going to talk about change. And I think had a couple of really great conversations this week. I've lots of wonderful conversations, but Ali and Victor in particular spun my mind on a few things, and I thought I should collect some of the thinking that we spoke about. This isn't exactly the conversations we had, but there were elements that came up that made me think, how do you actually implement change? How do you move forward? I think in geospatial, we're sort of, a lot of industries are sort of stuck in that sort of, this is what we know best and this is how we're going to do it, the best we can possibly do. So there is a journey to change, and I think change management, digital transformation, all those things kind of fall under that world. There's a lot of sort of methodologies and ways to do it. But let's talk about some of the experiences, or one particular experience that came to mind as I was thinking about this. Before I jump into that, I think the world of consulting seems an off topic, but consulting, you often hear consulting companies that, what do they actually do? Do they write strategies and put them on a shelf? Actually, most of the time when organizations come in and provide consulting services, they most often embed themselves within that organization. So an expert comes in and, does that, understands the business first at the ground level, so it gets into the weeds. But the ultimate goal of sort of a consulting engagement, and anything I've done in that sort of consulting world, is once you've understood that, it's a step above that, and then have the ability to look at the systems, look at the processes, and improve them, change what they're doing. So, not get lost in the weeds. And I think as a consultant, one has to have the ability to step above and have that bigger picture perspective, but from an understanding of what the details are. So let me tell the story that came to my mind long ago, back in the mists of time. I worked with an organization, and they wanted to take, they had a very established business model, but they wanted to take the next step. We kind of joked about it being the what next step. That's how I used to call it, what next. So what next means really changing. And the highlight that came to my mind when I started to work with them, when I was in the details, was one of the senior folks said to me, we have MVPs sitting on a shelf over here that we cannot get to market. We don't know what to do with them. We're perplexed as to why we can't get them to market. So really that was sort of the process I went through to kind of understand, or the question that was really I was trying to answer for them. If you want to move forward, you want to build new solutions, why are the things you're already building not getting to market? And at that time, a new solution had been put in place. And the guy who was the lead, he was a very technical guy. I asked him, because they were taking this new idea, this new solution, and getting the sales teams to actually start telling customers about it. And I said to this guy, what does this thing do? What does this thing actually do? What does it solve? And I asked him it on 3 different occasions, and every time he gave me an answer to it that made no sense. Nothing against him. I didn't understand it. And I thought, well, if I don't understand it, there's no salesperson that's going to understand it. And more importantly, there's no customer that's going to understand it, because you haven't isolated a problem that it solves. It was a piece of technology. So I watched their process of getting to these MVPs and getting to that particular solution, and what I noticed was a couple of key things actually. Number one was they did really good ideation sessions. They were very focused and good, right people in the room, etc. But the next thing they did was they went to market with this idea, and there was a massive flaw in the thinking, and it was more because it was driven by technology people ultimately than it was about the commercial team. Really didn't have enough say in what was happening, because they're the ones that bring the problems back into the organization. So their challenge was that they were led by engineering. They wanted to change, but they didn't have the ability to change because they were stuck on their old processes and ways of doing it. And the people they trusted to bring these things forward were the wrong people. So it was a really interesting scenario to actually be in. We went around the houses a little bit together as I began to sort of step above it and say, I think this is what's happening. Frameworks and things like that weren't in place, but ultimately the thinking and the people in the room that were driving this stuff weren't focused on a problem, they were focused on a technology. And that's a huge problem in our industry, that we focus more on the data and more on the technology, and we have this, if we build it, they will come type mentality when it comes to MVPs. I mean, everything starts with the problem. Everything starts with the problem. If you haven't isolated a problem to use data and technology against, you're going to fail. And all those MVPs that were the problem for that senior person, well, for the organization actually, were that problem. The secondary problem was they wanted to get to the next phase, what next, but they weren't prepared to change. So but that's a different conversation. But I think it's that often commonly discussed thing about starting with a problem, but we still talk about it and we actually don't do it. How do we do it? There's a journey there, and it's part art, part science. So anyway, my Friday talk: change management and achieving change, consulting, starting with a problem. It's all there. So hope you have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the nice weather if you're in a nice sunny place. And talk again next week. Thanks for watching.